Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, How to Drive Market Share and Sales Right from the Service Lane. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being presented by Dealeron. For anyone who isn't familiar with Dealeron, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that Dealeron is still the only company in the industry brave enough to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Well, maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new Dealeron website at Dealeron.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're so very pleased to have Bill Wittenmyer as our presenter today. Bill Wittenmyer is a partner of eLead1, the leading dealership software provider in today's automotive market. Bill has over 20 years of experience in the automotive space and currently oversees multiple divisions within the organization, including sales, marketing, OEM relationships, and large client accounts. Prior to leading eLead1, Bill spent several years in the automotive retail space, holding various retail positions in operations management. Highly regarded as a dynamic and motivational speaker, as well as an industry leader with non-traditional views, Wittenmyer speaks at several prominent automotive forums each year and contributes to top news publications and television business shows that reach industry business leaders across the U.S. Bill can be reached at billw@eleadcrm.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, we're going to try to respond to you by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference. And hey, you better share it with your friends and colleagues. Oh, and guess what? Our good friends at eLead1, they're giving away an awesome prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win an iPad mini. Oh yeah, that's an awesome prize for you coming into the holiday season. Now, you have to be on the live broadcast to win it though, so stay tuned and you could be the one winning this totally awesome prize today. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, do you tweet much? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's presentation, so please tag us in it. You can use hashtag DealerOnWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Bill Wittenmyer at Billy the Kid Witt. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. So let's get started. Let's learn how to drive market share and sales right from the service lane. B-Dub, how are you today, sir?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where in the country you are. But Ileana, I know you're in the beautiful East Coast. And listen, nobody does it better than you do. Honestly, you could do this as a full-time gig, and I know you get so many gigs, but you truly are one of the professionals in this deal. You could make a monkey look good, which is a perfect addition for today, I guess.
You are making me blush already so early in the day. Thank you, Bill Wittenmyer.
And don't tell your husband and happy anniversary, by the way. Make sure everybody knows.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You're so kind. Thank you so much. By the way, the Hubs says hi. By the way, he loves hanging out with you.
My hair's still prettier.
Your hair is prettier right now. You got that. Although he's rocking a nice beard. Okay, enough about that. You know what? I love having you on the show, and most people don't know this, but I'm going to let them know. Bill Wittenmyer was actually one of the very first people I had the pleasure of webinaring with when I came on board with Dealeron. So it's always so nice to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here again. And I love your topic. There are so many dealers out there who need the help. They want to know. They know that there's dealerships out there selling from the service lane, and they want some of that. They want some of that pie. So I'm so glad you're here today to talk to us about this. And I know you have a lot of information to get to, so let's do it. Where do we start?
Well, thank you so much. Always great to be here and the great folks at Dealeron and providing this forum. So I really appreciate that. And, of course, everybody that listens in their time and how valuable that is. I know how valuable time is. And, look, you can't go sell more cars. You can't go get more things and buy more time. It's a commodity that is always going away. So thanks so much for investing it in both Dealeron's time and mine today. So let's talk about how to drive market share and sales from the service lane. And really, what is that? What are some of the objectives that we want to do here? And more importantly, some of the actual take-home, real-world things that you can do. You know, tips to use smarter technology, obviously identify those additional sales opportunities. We want to have some better in-store processes that drive revenue and market share, and that's really going to be the key that we'll focus on. And then, of course, multi-channel engagement strategies, you know, different ways to communicate with our consumers that will get better customer loyalty, which really equals dollars for us. That's when we see loyalty, that means ROI. And then finally, a little question and answer session, which gives everybody an opportunity to throw some stuff out there. So I always love Jeff Bezos. What a great company. Obviously, Amazon, you know, a company shouldn't get addicted to being shiny because shiny doesn't last. And in our business, we tend to go out and find the shiniest things. Some of you may even work for owners or general managers that, you know, literally see something shiny and go immediately after it. Bring something back from every convention that's going to be the new and the greatest thing, or hire the new and greatest person. And really, you know, it's always about going back to the basics and doing the right things. Now, you can use technology to enhance that. And what today I wanted to talk about is I want to kind of introduce you to a success story first, because you have to have belief. There's a company can't get addicted to that being shiny or addicted to shiny because new technology, and it just doesn't last without the proper change in in-store processes or culture. So I've got a real world example of the dealership. I'm going to show you how this dealership went from averaging about 35 vehicles sold in the service lane to doubling that in 1 month, and then watching that number continuing to rise, and actually how they got there in the first place, which are all the key things. We're going to see what changes were made, and then how they made this increase in used vehicles acquired and units sold from the service lane. So there's 5 components to this success. These are the real critical pieces. Number 1, you've got to have technology. You've got to use advanced technology to target new business opportunities from the service drive that can pre-identify incoming appointments, equity, etc. We're going to keep hitting that point in a little bit. Number 2, you've got to have the right personnel in every department to maximize the technology and the performance. Actual executors, we're going to hit that a couple of times as well. We're going to create buy-in, number 3, from team members in several departments. Everyone has to be invested. If anybody was lucky enough to be at driving sales and saw the 2 Navy SEALs spoke, you know, they spoke about extreme ownership and accountability, you know, and owning everything that you do. There aren't other excuses or other things. It's all up to me if it's meant to be. Number 4, you want to set levels of business activities so that they can actually be expected from those. So you can't manage what you don't expect. Make sure that you're setting those tasks and those activities. And then finally, to achieve store goals of both targeting new business opportunities, additional units acquired and sold units, and all right from the service lane, where there's a continuous flow of opportunity. It doesn't matter what it's like outside, if it's raining, if the Dow Jones goes down, if it's snowing as we get into winter, et cetera. The service lane always has traffic coming into it, which is not necessarily the case in some of the other avenues inside of the dealership. So look, we want to see how retargeting these service customers, better in-store processes led to 12% combined increase in new and used sales in this dealership, allowing the store to determine its own economic client. They don't have to worry about what's going on with the rest of the world, the store down the street, or even what's happening in the market.
Bill? Uh-oh. I think we lost him. Audience, are you still there? Am I the one who got lost? Oh, no. What's going on? Okay, the audience is still here. So you guys can still hear me. And we have lost Billy the Kid. Oh, Billy, where are you? I don't know if he knows he's gone. He's still on here. Hold on 1 second. Let's write to Bill. All right, hold on 1 second, audience. Stay with me. You know what? I think we lost Bill. Nope, Bill is offline. Shooty shoot. Darn it. Melissa, are you on?
I am. I just text him. His phone is probably off. Hold on just a second. Let me try to get a hold of him.
Well, audience, I'm going to have to sit here and tap dance for you while we try and get Bill Wittenmyer back on. Sorry for the technical difficulties. He was just starting to get rolling too. Darn it. But I'll tell you what, while we're here, let me tell you also that we are going to be having an upcoming webinar with Jerry Tebow. So if you were on a few weeks ago, he's doing a contest and he's going to be giving away a lot of his cold hard cash. I think like $2,500, something crazy like that. So if you want more information, go to dealeron.com/webinars and check out the webinar from Jerry Tebow a couple weeks ago, and where he details the information. Hey,
Are
Bill.
you there? What happened? What'd you do?
Bill, dude, you have been gone for like the last 5 whole minutes, so I've been stalling.
All the stuff that I just gave out?
Dude, I'm sure it was awesome too. Yeah.
I think Dealeron needs to pay for a better phone connection or web service.
Really? Because we use the internet.
Yeah. Well, I know Amir invented it, but he obviously broke it.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Go back 1 slide if you wouldn't mind, sir. No, 2 slides.
That's how far we were.
We got you were just starting to talk about the goals, and you were talking about the Navy SEALs that talked over at the Digital Dealer Convention.
Hey, nice job in your memory. You're right. They talked about extreme ownership and that accountability. It's something you have to do. That's number 3 on my item list, is creating that buy-in. Nice job.
Then we lost you after that. We lost everything you said after that. If you wouldn't mind going over
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had some great stuff we gave out today. Ileana, I know you want to wrap up, so thanks so much. I'm just kidding. All right, go into number 4. Hey, levels of business activities. That's number 4 on the action item list. We want to make sure that have our team members that are there, and they're expected to have those levels of activities. You want to set those different things. And finally, number 5, achieve store goals in both targeting new business opportunities, additional units acquired and sold right from the service line. What's the result? Well, the result is we have to target to service customers better in-store processes. That has led to a 12% combined increase in new and used sales in this particular dealership. And this has allowed the store to actually determine its own economic climate. And that's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world at that time, whether it's raining, snowing, sleeting, or the Dow Jones is down. This dealership has its own economic climate and is only determined by itself. And that's how you find financial freedom, not only as a business, but also as an individual. And that's really what's key. So we want to talk about a couple of things. What can we do, right? What is it really about? We know all fixed operations, it's the heart of net profits for dealerships. NADA research tells us that profits from service on the rise, actually up to 60%. The average service department has a 46% margin on sales. Now compare that to 3.8% average margin seen in the new vehicle sales side. You know, how many customers filter through your service drive each day versus those that are touched in sales? And I know some of you, or even most of you, are probably thinking to yourselves, well, what does that matter to me? You know, I'm a salesperson, or I'm on the variable end, I'm a BDC manager. You know, why does service net profit have anything to do with me? It has everything to do with us. Everything is connected at this point. Today's business has moved so fast that every department is interconnected, or at least it should be, and it determines the success of every other department. So if we know that the service department has people that trust, like, and do business with us, and that profitability is there, it's a low-hanging fruit target area for me to go sell cars into and to have opportunities. And it doesn't matter what's happening outside. If it's raining outside, fresh ups aren't coming. They may be coming through other avenues, but I guarantee you that the service lane is still busy. In fact, a recent sampling of 10 dealerships this month, from the 1st of October to the 27th, there were 3 service customers for every 1 sales opportunity. And in some stores, this is actually being very conservative. There's up to 5 or 9 service opportunities for everyone in sales. That's why it's important. These are areas where there are continuous opportunities for us over and above our normal sales channels for us to maximize, find the ROI, and more importantly, sell cars. So other than digital leads and inbound calls, a dealership's biggest area of opportunity for new sales opportunities is that service department. Having the right person in place or personnel in place that understand the data mining technology, and most important, and I'm going to keep hammering this home, how to use it and actually do to make better decision making. That's really what makes the difference, along with dedication. You've got to be dedicated. We're going to come back to that point in a little bit. So I want to give you 4 different areas that this particular dealership made changes to, what you can actually go and use right now. And this is back in April of 2015. So number 1, this points to the technology and the personnel side that we spoke of earlier. They actually grabbed a specialist who was trained on the software that could review the day's service appointments, the RO orders, vehicle and payment details to make the best decision on the customers to target you first with engagement upgrade to their current vehicle. In other words, they actually prepared. And the best part about preparation is, if you prepare, it eliminates pressure. And that's one thing we don't do a very good job of in our business, is we prepare. We like to wing a lot of things because we do it every day. So my first suggestion is, take that specialist, train them, and do the preparation before the customers come in that day, using the technology that gives you that information. Number 2, this is a big one. They moved dedicated personnel inside of the service drive. They actually physically moved this particular team member, and in this case, it was the used car buyer to work out of the service drive. Now that's commitment, right? Now you're surrounding yourself in an area where this is where you're at. There are no other opportunities. You can't go run and hide. You are sitting in the service lane. You are a car buyer. Now you've got there right front and center, and everybody knows what your tasks are. It does a lot of things by doing that. Once the exchange vehicles are ID'd, they were tasked with physically appraising the vehicle, and then they would prepare and print purchase proposals for each customer. Again, another execution item that they needed to do. They were dedicated to this job only. They weren't given a lot of other things. If you saw my tweet before the show, I didn't want to tweet during the show because multitasking just means you're going to do a lot of things crappy, not one thing's great. So make sure when you do this dedication, this is it. This is their job. They're the used car buyer out of the service lane. They're going to do print proposals for each and every vehicle that comes through. Number 3, critical, top down. General manager also set expectation levels to how many expected proposals with comparison worksheets, notes, and outcomes were presented daily. And he required copies of each one on his desk. So that now turns to our activity and tasks point that we talked about earlier. And then finally, item number 4, he set daily, monthly, and a yearly goal, long-term vision here of units sold from the service lane, and that addresses our goals area. And this is something that also is pervasive in our business. We're such a 30-day business, it's hard to look out past those 30 days. They went so far as not only daily, monthly, but even a year goal as to where they'd be at and to manage by those goals as they went through. It sounds simple, but until you made those process changes inside the dealership to fit your culture, you can only have that shiny technology that sits there and collects dust. I've said for a lot of years, dealerships in some cases, of course, nobody that's on this particular webinar, but a lot of dealerships out there are the greatest graveyard of technology where there's 5 or 6 different pieces and maybe 1 or 2 people actually even knows how to log on, let alone remembers their log on. So it's all about execution. I want you to think about this. Pecans are great, but you want to enjoy them, and you can't enjoy them without a nutcracker. It's all about doing the execution, and that's where we want to go to. So for these advanced stores, I'm going to take it a little bit further. Use mobile lane application if you have one. If you're using an MPI in the lane, make sure your equity identifier integrates with your mobile app. It includes an in-store process. Not only should this be technology show the customers in equity, but should also start to do multi-channel backup on declined services and upcoming maintenance revenue streams. For those advanced stores that are out there as well, they use a loyalty mobile application specifically set for your store. Make sure you have this technology and this data mining piece included in there, so it includes in-store and automated processes, inviting them in and giving those opportunities as they go along. So a couple of tips for some of those advanced stores that are already way above the curve. Let's take a look at some of the goals and expectations specifically as I go back through, and you're going to see me repeat the same pieces over and over and give you pieces. So set the goals and the expectations. Not only is the software specialist has to be trained and ID the goal of X number of vehicles per day, and in this case, it was 50 per day that they wanted to go out and target that fit the profile of desired units and qualify as good sales opportunities to exchange for a new vehicle with same or like payments. But set the criteria for what makes it a good exchange opportunity. Define what the specialist is looking for. Let's just not go out and say, oh, we want to trade these cars. We want to appraise 50 cars today out of the lane. let's target the ones that we need most. This should ideally match your used car market plan or your used car stock plan. In other words, buy what you need and what sells first. If you're a Mercedes store, you don't necessarily need to go out and buy a 1982 Hyundai that's got 200,000 miles on it. It may not fit the profile. But you and your culture need to identify exactly what that used car market plan is so that you can go out and identify that stock plan and go after those first. It's all about the low-hanging fruit. Couple of examples. Here are some things. Did the customer make an appointment versus a walk-in? Great thing to manage. Is the customer waiting? Can they be found in the dealership to start equity discussion, right? That's a higher priority. We want to go and target the people that are actually in front of us. If they're there waiting, they don't have much else to do other than probably drink the great coffee that you say is Starbucks and it's probably some off-brand you brought at the grocery store. Make sure you go and talk to those customers. Was the vehicle scanned in the service drive to check the equity position? Was there a process of a credit pre-screen built into your technology if they're not a particular sold customer from you? In other words, if they didn't buy from you before but they're a service customer, do you have the technology built into your system to do a pre-screen to see where they're at in terms of credit opportunities? Additional information. Look, you should be looking at the number of payments left. Obviously, those are no-brainers. Difference in the amount of payment for the upgrade vehicle. You know, what do I have to look at in terms of negotiation? What is the type of opportunity? Are we lowering the payment? Are we in equity? Is it a warranty expiration? Is it a lease mileage issue? Is it a service appointment? We want to know if the position is a finance versus a lease. Was a customer greeted and talked to about their equity position? Those are all items to measure and great activities that you should be able to manage through the technology, so then you can coach and counsel with those great personnel to find out where the opportunities are and to do a better job, or to commend where they are doing a good job. Here's a freebie. Feedback is really important. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, make sure that you give feedback. You have to have the information in order to give feedback. Set those tasks. Great way to go back and manage it. And look, if it's bad feedback, do it quick, do it painless, and get over it. The longer you hold on to bad feedback, it doesn't get any better. It's not like a fine wine. So they can't get better if you don't give it. Once these vehicles have been ID'd, what we have to do is the exchange specialist needs to review with the team member that's stationed in the service lane. In this case, it was the used car buyer. You know, what create purchase offers? What are we looking for? Search the dealership inventory, have that ability. Match it with a replacement vehicle to the trim level, closest to their current vehicle, similar MSRP, oldest in stock and trim. That's a great opportunity in terms of if you want to move a unit, start looking at those older units first. Great way to make some deals later on if you need to, and it turns your inventory. Distinguish between conquests or those that are just service customers that didn't buy from dealer, from our own customers. See which ones you want to go after first and what's important. Factor in current rebates and incentives. Those should be included in, provided by a third-party provider, or integrated to the consumer-specific address, selectable for more targetable rebates such as college rebate, active, etc. See what other opportunities are out there to make that deal happen. We want to get down to the nitty-gritty, as much detail as possible, so that, again, we're prepared. Preparation eliminates the pressure. Now, here's something if you look at. This is a custom worksheet that was actually being used in this store, and they created it with a payment comparison, and it was augmented with third-party providers to illustrate the additional cost of retaining the current vehicle due to maintenance and lower miles per gallon, right? So you can see the Edmunds cost of driving on the left. You can see a fuel comparison to the right, comparing their existing vehicle with what savings or advantage they would have in their new vehicle. Obviously, the idea is to A, create some pain, create some awareness. These are things we never talk about. And then B, we want to create that opportunity to mitigate what is the difference in moving into a new vehicle, which we already know they want to do. We just have to give them a great justification in order to do that. Did you see this? Look, it's $70 more a month to keep maintaining it the way it is. You got a $50 difference in gas mileage from that one to this one. You're actually paying more a month, Mr. Customer, at $863 than on the new offer at $734 when we save you that gas mileage and that maintenance. It's a really simple presentation. You don't have to get complicated here, but it is key to print it out because that adds a lot of validity to it. You know, make a decision on who's going to be best to present this to the customer. In this case, they actually used 17 different sales internet specialists, and they rotated them up to the present, so whoever was next got to go present the next worksheet. They rewarded their hardest workers with more opportunities to sell, and then the ones that weren't, they wouldn't include in the rotation. So again, you know, pet your racehorses, kick your ponies. That's a book that I read, and I think it's really You can spend, think about this, Ileana.
I've never heard that. Pet your racehorses.
They try to manage by helping out the ones that are lowest on the rung. They go spend 80% of their time with people that are selling 6, 7, 8, 10 cars. If you get a 10% increase, you're barely getting a 1-car increase. But if I spent that same time with the people that are selling 20 cars, now I'm going to get a 2-car increase at that same 10%. So the theory is, look, you want to help as many people as you can. You want to help everybody. But if you're going to focus on an area, focus on the ones that are actually executing. And in this case, my example would be provide them with the opportunities and the additional opportunities to sell. It's a great reward. It's a great reward system. And that's really what this business is about. So let them go up to that additional sales process on that. Set those goals, goals that are achievable, but there's a fine line between achievable and maintainable, and you want to always keep pushing the button, right? The GM in this store set clear goals for the team. In this case, he expected 20 purchase proposals with printed worksheets along with noted results to be left on his desk daily, and he reviewed each single one. That means around 600 purchase offers each month is what he was looking for and what he expected. That was a clear and concise goal. Let me explain something about goals real quick. The problem with goals is managers sometimes become untrusting because they change the tide always constantly during the course of a month. Stay consistent. As a manager, stay consistent, stay the course. Your people will trust you more if you're more consistent. And the same thing with making it clear. Write it out, post it, say it, make sure they have it as well. Clear and concise goals are everywhere, and you'll see these all the time. So he had it up on his office door, 600 opportunities every month to purchase a vehicle out of the service line. So everybody was striving towards that, right? Still, included into a save a deal meeting. Most stores, I bet half of the stores still don't even do save a deal or make a deal meetings on a regular basis. Again, make it clear, make it concise, make it consistent, those 3 things. Review the results from the day before each and every day. You can't, you know what's great about this in the car business? It's like math. Math is a course that if you miss a day, it's a building block day, and you're eventually going to be behind. It's not something you can come in and just wing and pick up where you left off. Car business is the same way. You could be average, and you can stay average. But if you want to be great, you have to build on it each and every day. And it's these things like save a deal meetings, make a deal meetings, setting these clear and concise goals, and communicating them. So set that daily of a number of units to acquire and sell from the service drive. In this case, the goal is 5 per day. Or an additional 150 units per month sold. So do the math on that. Maybe you start with 3 inside your store. Make it realistic, but don't let it sit there. If you let it sit there, that becomes a routine, and a routine is just a rut that's been extended from my good friend Joe Verdi. So make sure we talk about that. Don't limit expectations, and make sure that you set as high as you possibly can. Hey, Ileana, I got to take a break and take a drink because you've been making me talk so much. So it's time for a poll question.
Yes, it is. All right, audience, you only have one poll question today, and it's on your screen now. We'd love to know if you know the answer to this question. It's on the screen. Please pick one of the following answers. Okay, the question is, the average service department has what percentage of a sales margin? What do you think it is? Average, not yours, maybe yours. But the average in the United States has what percentage of a sales margin? Do you think it's 23%, 56%, 46%, 18%, or do you think it's as high as 68%? Once you think you know the answer, click the radio button on your screen, send it on in, and once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And we'll see which one of you people has the right answer. What do you think the average service department has when it comes to their sales margin? Gosh, I know a lot of dealerships would like some of those numbers as their sales margins in the service drive. So the votes are coming in fast. Thank you so much for sending them in. And also, if you haven't gotten in your questions yet for Bill Wittenmyer from eLead One, who's doing a great job today talking about all kinds of things that you can be doing to help drive sales in your service drive. Get those questions in, because you know what? He is a great resource, and he and I really want to help you get more sales out of your service drive. Okay, now that we have a lot of you have voted, thank you so much for participating in today's poll question. We're going to close this poll and share the results. Bill, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, because I just want you to know it's kind of even across the board. So I don't think anyone really knows, is really sure of the answer to this question. So let's close this poll, and then you can tell all of us what the right answer is, okay? 16% of today's audience think it's 23%. 19% of today's audience think it's more like 56%. Now, the majority of today's audience, 26%, so just over a quarter of my very smart audience, think the answer is 46%. They think the average service department has a sales margin of 46%. Now, 23% of today's audience think it's as low as 18%, and only 16% of today's audience think it's as high as 68%. So where do we go from here? Bill, what is the right answer? Which group of my very smart audience was correct?
The majority always rules. C, 46%.
Really?
Service department sales margin.
Okay, first of all, congratulations to that 26% who actually guessed correctly. And second of all, that's really high. 46%, that's almost half. That's great.
Yeah, as an average, and I think some of the best stores that you'll see out there are actually running closer to a 68 to 72%. So that's
really
kind of the top line. Yeah, you can really make the whole thing, and that's why the service lanes are there in the first place. We focus a lot on the front end because it's fun, and that's what most of us do and are brought up in, but that's where the bills get paid.
Wow. And not to mention the fact that the service department does make a lot of money for the dealership on its own. But now that we know that you can actually drive a whole lot of sales through your service department, this is huge information. All right, getting back to you. Okay, I see it kicked you out of your PowerPoint, didn't it?
No, it didn't.
Oh,
I did it for you.
You're so kind. All right, where do we go from here?
Back to the action. And really, what are those different available items that we can do that help promote across there, right? A consistent media engagement we talked about earlier. You want to be consistent that you have messages going across all media channels. If you're doing direct mail, at least make it consistent. I know that number continues to go down. I'm personally not a fan of it, not an argument's sake for here. Any message is a good message as long as it's getting read, as long as it's getting interpreted, and as long as it's consistent. Email communication, your phone scripts, equity, recent service customer, lease sent. You should have your software, your exchange specialist, and contact customers with ID vehicles. Introduce them to the exchange vehicle strategy before they get there. Start to prepare. This is as you go up and start to ramp this department up. Now you're reaching out beforehand, back more of that preparation. So now you're not waiting for them to actually come in to present. You start planting the seed before they've even come into the service lane on their service appointment. Start introducing them to that mindset. You'd be amazed at the amount of people that will originally say no, but it sets off a little time bomb in their head and they start thinking, man, it sure would be nice to be in a new vehicle, especially when they get into the dealership and they start seeing all those vehicles sitting around the store. Automated service marketing, right? Make sure it's integrated into triggered communications so that you don't have to do a lot of manual here. Your provider and your vendor should be able to do this for you so that it's all tied in and it's an automated piece. You want to automate as much as possible. Now, don't think automated as in template, but think automated as in triggers to make sure that those things are going out. I know everybody sits there and says, I want to have it personal, et cetera, et cetera. I'd rather have something rather than nothing, regardless if it was personal or not. So keep that up. Loyalty mobile app, make sure that it's mirroring what you're doing in the exchange area. If you have one that's a dealer-facing mobile app for your customers, make sure that that has this information in there as well. Point of sale material and really staff awareness, right? Again, it's back to that preparation. There is no pressure. There's so many times, even today, 2015, where you go all the way through the dealership, not everybody's really on the same page and understands what's happening. So make sure the entire dealership is aware of if you're running an exchange program or a trade-up program or whatever you're going to label it as that service department mining across the entire dealership. And that's all the way to the cashier, right? Make sure that you actually have them investigated and invested into the system. I've talked about before where you can even throw out spiffs to a cashier. Look, every time you mention it and even ask this question, I'll pay you $1. You know, it's not a lot of money. Most dealerships spend more than that on Saturday for mystery meat to try to keep the salespeople there. But if you did that and got the cashier engaged even in the process, how well-defined is that whole dealership at that point in terms of the awareness of what's going on and that communication, right? So make sure you got those phone scripts in. We talked about that consistent email engagement. Make sure that you're going through and you've got that across the board in terms of your automated triggers, as we spoke of before. And look, each dealership is different. You don't have to have the same one and the same branding as what you see here. You can customize it on your own. We're very creative people, but again, what you want to do is make sure that it's consistent across the board. So let's see what these changes did and how they affected this particular dealership. So we're kind of back to the real world here and what happened. We did these dealerships back in April, this dealership in March, and the positive results were immediate. Remember, they were averaging 35 units acquired sold from the service lane originally. In April, the number almost doubled. It went to 68. That's an increase of 33. In May, it went to 83. June, 91. July, 103. August 106, those are all this year numbers. So an increase of 71 units per month. That's a 67% increase in units sold from the fixed operations in 5 months because they put 4 simple things together. Now, they're simple on paper. They're hard in execution. We went through those 4 items a little bit easier, but you've got to make sure that you do those. But that's a huge increase. Look, I'm a big believer in Joe Verdi and all the great people that are out there in this industry. If you don't like the numbers, you think it's too high, cut it in half. And let's say it's a 33% increase over the course of the time. Cut it in half again and say it's only a 15% increase, right? Any of those increases at this point, straight out of the service lane, without any additional marketing, without any additional cost, without any additional lead generation, it was already there. So this is the opportunity that's sitting in front of us. It's just about doing the execution. And the thing is, every single dealer in the world has this opportunity. Less than 10% actually execute on it on a monthly and a daily basis.
Hey, Bill, we do have a question that came in from the audience about that slide.
Fire it up.
Mike wrote in, well, he's particularly interested in this case study. He said, what was the daily RO count from this dealership you're talking about?
That's a great question. This dealership has just under 200 ROs a day.
Oh, so this is big.
They're a decent sized store. But again, put everything into your own equation and your own culture, right? Like the percentages still remain the same. 67% of 100 is still 67%. 67% of 200 is still 67%. At the end of the day, what works in your culture? An average dealership is probably going to have maybe 30, maybe 40 ROs a day. Do the math on that. The opportunities are still there. That's 30 to 40 different customers right there. This store set, remember, only a 50 target for each day out of 200. They were only going after a quarter to begin with as a realistic goal. So put it into the culture you're at, put it in the store that you're at. It's still all about making the actual execution of what's happening.
Well, Mike already wrote in and said, thanks. Please continue. This is fascinating.
Right on. So automated service marketing, make sure this is another tie into this. There's a couple of different drivers. So, now you start to say, well, why is he going back to talk about marketing and service, et cetera? You've got to feed the monster. I had a great mentor, owns 6 different stores now that I worked for years ago, and he said, the problem with building a monster is you got to keep feeding it, and that's the thing, and that's a good problem to have. So you got to keep feeding the monster. You got to understand where your bread is buttered, and in this case, you've got to continue to make sure, as a whole dealership entity, you're driving the service lane. The more people that are coming through the service lane, the more opportunities are there. Don't look short-sighted and say, oh, only the service guys are getting the opportunity for ROs. Again, tie it back to the other things that we talked about. If you are a 30 or 40 a day RO store, if you're driving more ROs to your service lane, you're increasing your own opportunities, you're feeding your own monster. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, and that's one of the issues in this business. We look around for somebody else to always take care of us and do it for us, and I'm telling you, the ones that are great, if you ever wondered how somebody got there, how did they own that dealership, how did they get to run that store, how did they get to be that, it's because they went out and they did it. They did what others wouldn't do, and they went out and they did it better than anybody else. So think about those automated incentives, coupons triggered by events. Make sure that you know this right off the bat. Only 1 in 3 drivers are actually committed to the auto service provider that they're using. So that's better than on the front end for sure. And I know that number is going down because of the Pet Boys of the world and everybody else that's out going after that business. So keep feeding the monster, and you will still have opportunities back in the service lane. A lot of different things you can do, whether it's lost customers, custom service campaigns. Happy to give any of those different things out as you go out there. What I want to tell you about as we finish up here, obviously a great quote from John Wooden, the great coach. Failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be. And I would take that even further, and I would say in today's business, failure to change is an absolute failure because it is fatal. The way the business is moving, it's moving very quickly. Consumers are moving even faster than we are. We've got to stay ahead of that curve, and we've got to make sure we do that. They're smarter, they're better informed, they're more intolerant of being sold than ever before. They're looking for different avenues to purchase. They tell that everything we do. They're looking for a hassle-free and a much better experience. If you can come at them in a different area, and right now the service lane is a totally different area. They're not accustomed to this being an area that they can be presented facts and figures. If you're printing those out, it's a great new area that you can go out and find some great business and some opportunities inside your store today. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till next month. You don't have to wait till next year. This is something you can absolutely do today without spending another dime. I always love finishing on one of these, and this is at demotivator.com. I've always felt that if you have to have, and no offense to anybody that does in their office right now, but if you have to have a poster in your office that makes you motivated, that gets you out of bed in the morning, that makes you want to go do something, then you're already dead, man. So here's mine. Tradition. Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. Be brave enough to go out and change, be brave enough to go out and do things that are different. More importantly, be brave enough to execute. It's better to do something than to do nothing. That's what I always like to go at. Ileana, always so awesome to be here. So action items. So we kind of wrap up here. We want to review the in-store sales strategy and culture. You want to identify good target personnel that might be great for this position. Maybe there's one there now. Identify those daily, monthly, yearly activity expectations and sales goals. Don't be afraid to change and evaluate those as you go on. In fact, I highly recommend that you do. Never leave it the same. It should always be changing and moving up, hopefully. Create a culture of buy-in through that strategic process and initiatives. Remember the Navy SEALs and talking about being completely invested and always bought in. That's a huge thing. If you can get everybody buying into it and complete ownership, that's where you want to be. Make sure that you go out and you execute. If you do anything today, do something. That's what I would leave you with. Question and answer session, Ileana. Hopefully I don't ask anything. I've forgotten everything I've said already.
That's what you're sticking with? Bill, that was really, really good. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Audience, if you haven't gotten in your question yet for the wonderful Bill Wittenmyer from eLead One about how you can get more sales out of your service drive, now is the perfect time to do that. Send in those questions. We're going to get to them in just a moment. Before we do that, though, Bill, because you have a minute to go and take a drink and catch your breath from all that awesomeness you just spewed out all over us. Hey, guess what? We got something awesome to do right now. It's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends over at eLead One, they're giving away an awesome prize today. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win an iPad mini. Darn it, I still don't have one of those. Darn it. It's an awesome prize. And it's great for you to use at home, but it's also great for you to use at the dealership too. Perfect for coming into the holiday season. Awesome prize to give away. So you're going to want to win this. All you have to do is answer a simple question about the presentation that you just saw. So what I want you to do is get to your keyboards, get ready, get those fingers nice and loosened up. First one to write in a correct response is going to be walking away with this cool prize today. And of course, vendors, you know we love you. We do. We love it that you show up and we love that you're here, but we're going to ask you to please sit this one out. This prize is intended for dealership personnel only, but here we go. Good luck, everyone. Earlier in the show, Bill discussed a case study. Now, according to that study, what was the percentage change in units sold from the service department? Oh, we already have a winner. That's right. If you were paying attention, the correct answer was 67%. And the first person to write in the correct response is Bob Close, or is it Close? I'm not sure. Bob Close, you're our winner today, 67%. Congratulations, Bob Close. You are the winner of today's Dealer On webinar giveaway. It is an iPad mini courtesy of our friends from eLead1. Bob, what I need you to do is send in the name of your dealership and, of course, your mailing address so we can get this out to you as soon as we can. Nope, I still don't know where Bob is from, so hopefully Bob will type that in soon. Of course, we want to thank all of our friends online today for joining in and trying to win this prize. And don't worry, you didn't win today. It's okay. Bob was the lucky one today. But you know what? We give away a great prize at every Dealer On webinar. So come on back and try your hand at luck at the next Dealer On webinar. And who knows, it could be you who walks away with the cool Dealer On prize. All right. Hey, so Bob is with Fred Anderson Toyota of Columbia. Congratulations, Bob. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Thank you, everyone, for playing along. Of course, like I said, congratulations to today's winner. And we got to thank our good friends over at eLead1 for their awesome generosity. So thank you so much for playing along. Okay, and we're ready to get to our questions from the audience. Bill, are you ready for this?
We're as ready as we're going to be. Congratulations to Bob Close. Nice pickup.
Nice pickup. All right, here we go. Let me scroll up here. Okay, your first question comes in from Dave. He actually asked this kind of early, and he says, how do you avoid offending a recent in-house purchase of a used car when you present them with this purchase proposal? Oh, I could see that happening, Dave. He says, should I assume that the software Intel is going to eliminate that possibility? Okay, so I get what Dave is saying. So let's say some customer, he came to your dealership and he bought a used car, let's say a year ago, 2 years ago, but you're coming at him with, this new purchase opportunity. So is there a way that that person might get offended, or is there like a certain word track that we should use, Bill?
I think there's a possibility for everybody to be offended at any time. I mean, let's be very transparent with each other. You know, people are crazy. We're all crazy in one way or another. So we have to go into it always knowing that there's an opportunity that you might create heat. The biggest thing is to set those processes and pieces in place so that you eliminate the opportunity or the chances or the odds of creating that heat early on in the process. And yet, I think most vendors and most products out there will give you the opportunity to put in parameters or filters, that are better suited for, hey, look, somebody that's, not purchased in the last 18 months or greater, or they have at least 12 months payments remaining, right? That's another big thing. You're never going to trade somebody out that has less than 12 months remaining on a finance contract. They've already invested 4 years into it. They can see the end of the rainbow. They're never going to trade out of that deal. And if they do, they think their car's worth gold. So I totally understand the question. I think it's a great question. I think that you'll never eliminate the opportunity for heat anywhere, but a good friend of mine always told me I'd rather have an opportunity for heat than no opportunity at all. And if you're really good in the business, then you can usually turn that into a plus. But I think most good vending and most good pieces that are out there are going to give you those parameters and going to give you those filters. And if not, then create your own. Say, look, we know we're not going to go after anybody that's purchased a vehicle within the last 3 years from us. Now, if they bought it from somebody else, it's still wide open, and I might not know that information. But you have to find where your sweet spot is and where it is. I think, certainly it's something around 18 months. I'm hesitant to go anything sooner than that. No matter what they've done, unless it's showing in my equity tool that they put a ton of money down, you certainly have the opportunity to, quote, offend them, unquote. But at the end of the day, if I'm presenting something else that's even better, it's all about that give and take. So hopefully that answered the question and give you a good way to go.
Thank you so much for the great question, Dave. And, I have to say, you're right. People can get offended by anything, but I find it hard to believe that somebody would get offended if you're trying to save them money or get them into a newer car. I would hope that would be the case.
I've had salespeople that I've seen and I've worked with that have told me, why would I want to make more money? Think about the taxes I would have to pay. So trust me, there are crazy people out there that can get offended by anything.
I believe you. Okay, Dave, thank you so much. If you have a follow-up question, you can always write it on in. Okay, great question comes in from Jessica. I've been waiting to ask you this one, Bill, because actually I had the same question. So thank you so much for sending this in, Jessica. She says, where would we find the company who does that cost of driving worksheet that you showed? Is that something that's in the eLead CRM, or is that something that you just make up for your own dealership? Bill, where'd that come from?
Great question. And to avoid being the self-promoter, which I always do avoid to try to do, but yes, that is a product enhancement inside of eLead One, and that's part of the perfect prospect piece that you can get. You can multi-channel that in terms of both email printed out and also deliverable in a PDF, so you can even attach it into something else if you didn't want to directly email it to a customer. So great customized worksheet, one of the different ones that are available out there. Thanks for the question and letting me self-promote.
I did not know that that was a part of eLead One. That's great. That's great. All right, Jessica, thank you so much for the great question. Okay, next question, Bill, comes to you from Mike. He says, what system do these dealers use from the technology standpoint to provide them with all that information that they need? You know, this is when you were talking about, what their different payment would be, what their miles per gallon are on this newer car, that kind of stuff. Where do they get all that information, or they just have to do some homework?
Too much self-promotion. Thank you for the question and laying me up, Mike. I appreciate that. Send me your address and I'll send you a can of cookies. I appreciate that. They used our Perfect Prospect and Service One combination package, which enabled them to do that and then tie it into the service lane as well. So they kind of use that all in one piece at that particular store. There's a lot of great vendors out there. Again, I don't want to be the self-promoter. We think it's key to have it in one piece, and they just happen to use ours.
Wonderful. Okay, so Mike, thank you so much for the awesome question. I see Bill really appreciate it. So keep those questions coming. We do just have a handful more of questions to get through, and then we'll be closing out the show. Okay, your next question comes from Todd. Todd says, hi, Bill, great webinar. Would you recommend calling a day or two ahead to set up an appointment with service customers? If yes, would you recommend incentives for participating in the exchange program? Bill?
I think that's a great question. Thank you, Todd, for the feedback, by the way. I appreciate that. I would tell you that as you grow, there's a couple of different steps that you can take. And I like the way Todd's thinking because this is going to the different levels. So number one, I start including doing a call prior to them coming in, 2 or 3 days, again, kind of setting that little time bomb off in their head, preparing them for it. If I'm going to be prepared, I want to prepare the consumer for it. And look, you may not get a lot of positive feedback right there then on the call. They may tell you, we kept our car, we bought it for a reason, you sold it to us for a reason, we're going to keep it for a long time. You can immediately go into no problem. Our service department is fantastic. They're going to take great care of you. By the way, while you're here, I'd love to come back and say hi and leave it at that. But what's going to happen over the course of those next couple of days is I guarantee you the average consumer is going to start thinking about, wow, what would it be like to be in a new vehicle? Don't hesitate, even if they told you no, they're not interested, to go back and say, look, I still took the time. It's not going to take a lot of your time, but I did prepare before we came in. Here's just a couple of different options based upon your vehicle. I printed it out, leave it there, move on. You'd be amazed at how much feedback you get on that. Now, I also like where Todd's going further on that because I would also follow up with calls after that, somewhere around that 7-day mark. Somewhere between 5 and 7 days after they've been in the shop, they did a CP, customer pay, they spent some money on the vehicle. This is a great opportunity to come back to them and walk through a script that starts saying, hey, look, we know you loved your vehicle, you spent a little bit of time on it, if I could move you out of that vehicle, make it maintenance free, maybe you can keep your payment close to the same, would you be interested, or any of those other things. They may come back to use a great rebuttal, which is, hey, I just spent $1,000 in your service department. No problem, Mr. Customer. If I could get that and apply that towards your new vehicle based upon the fact that you just did this within the last few days, wouldn't that be of an opportunity for you? Would your GM go for that? More than likely, yes. I would clear that beforehand, but it's another great opportunity. Hey, they spent $1,000 in there. You'd have to do that on recon anyway. Let me apply that towards the new vehicle. You keep their vehicle. The recon's done. You traded them out to a new one. So I'd make it three-pronged. I make it before they get there, I make it while they get there, and I make it after they get there. That's the short version of my answer. Great question, Todd.
Todd already likes your answer. He says, thanks. I love planting that seed for them. Exactly. Classy setup and delivery this way, too. All right. Thank you so much, Todd. We do have some other great questions that came in as well. So audience, sit tight. We're going to get to all of those questions. I do want to remind the audience that a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later. And if you haven't already done so, check out the handouts section in the GoToWebinar interface. In there, you'll find the PDF version of this slide deck ready for you to download. All right? Oh, no, don't go forward. Go back. Go back. Oh no, we have more questions for you, pal.
I've seen enough
No,
CNC. Come
you're sticking around for a little bit while longer, okay?
on. I put the whole day aside for you, Ileana, so I've cleared my schedule.
You are a smart man. Okay, here we go. Your next question comes to you from Brendan. Brendan says, if our sales and service are in two different locations, should we bring the customer to sales or sell them right there in the service lane? Ooh, good question, Brendan.
Great question. So obviously a little bit different setup. Usually sometimes in the big metros it's this way, or if you're in a landlocked area. Here's what I would suggest in this. This sounds probably a little crazy. I think you keep them at the service area. I think you have the dedicated personnel there, and then I think you take one or two or three vehicles, whatever the big movers are right now, whatever's selling really well in your particular brand. I think you have them as clean as they possibly can be, right out of PDI, right out of the showroom in the wrapper, and I think you have them sitting down there at that service area on display as people come up. That gives that reminder that the new vehicles are still about it when it's separated that way, and you can take them and get them and sit them in, smell that new car smell. It may not be the exact vehicle that you're looking to exchange them into, but it gives them an idea, hey, then you can make the offer at that point to move them to where the actual other vehicles are in there. But I don't want to take the customer out of the existing environment. Let me bring the environment to them. Let me have the specialist there, let me have the buyer there, and then let me have 3 or 4 selected vehicles that you change out every couple of weeks or every couple of days if you want to. I don't know how fast your system is, but keep that turn going, but keep a couple of brand new vehicles right down there on display, some great advertisements, some great pieces on it so you can actually move them right into that vehicle there. Even if it's not the exact one, it starts to get the process going, and that's really what you're looking for. Smell that new car smell, start to ideal themselves in it, and the ability that it is real and it's actually valid. Great question.
Great question. All right, Brendan, thank you so much. Anyone has a follow-up question, send it on in. All right, another great question came in from Tim. He says, do you have any suggestions on how to incentivize the service analysts? Because that's where we have run into problems, is actually implementing the program. That one comes from Tim.
So I'd love to know what the definition of a service analyst is for Tim. So I'm going to have to make assumptions until then. And
well, he did just write in again, and he said those service analysts are accustomed to setting appointments in the DMS rather than in the CRM, and we have a hard time getting buy-in from those service writers.
Okay, good. So here's what I recommend. It's hard to change a service advisor. They're no different than salespeople, although they always claim to be totally different. They're the exact same. They just get there in a different place.
You're just making friends all over the place today, aren't you, Bill?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a huge salesperson advocate. I'm just a bad salesperson myself, but it doesn't mean I don't like salespeople. I love them, and I certainly love the car business, and service advisors are just as good. Keep them in that. I think good pieces that are out there and good vendors that are out there should have an ability to combine into the DMS and pull those appointments directly out of the DMS. So there shouldn't be a limitation based on forcing them to go straight to the CRM to make an appointment. Your vendor or your CRM provider should be able to have that directly linked to the DMS so that you can actually pull those service appointments out of there. And depending on the DMS, it may not be real time. Some are better than others in terms of the certification or the access that they give to CRM companies, but most of your major providers out there are going to give you a real-time or near real-time ability to pull those service appointments out of the DMS and drop them into the CRM, or vice versa, or even a third party. There's a lot of great third-party schedulers that dealerships use out there as well. So in terms of actually answering that even further, incentivize, look, nothing happens without a pay plan in this business. So I'll give you something that I learned a long time ago. More than likely, those service advisors already have a pay plan established that has a bonus to it. I don't believe in bonusing people to do a job that they're expected to do. I do expect to bonus people for doing an exemplary job or over and above, and I believe bonusing them heavy on that, but not to do the regular job. So if they have an existing pay plan that's accrued right now, great way to sell everybody except for them probably in the dealership on this is tie their existing bonus plan to that they have to go and they have to put the CRM, the appointments in the CRM in order to qualify for the bonus. I guarantee you put that caveat in there, you don't spend another dime, they don't miss a dime, and you get exactly what you want done.
Okay, Tim did have a follow-up comment. He said his CRM is eLead One. So does it depend on what DMS he has that he can
Yeah,
pull
the
that information?
DMS is a critical factor, and then what package of the certification that they're on. A lot of dealerships, because they may not be using certain packages like service, may not have the service application in terms of DMS transfer of data turned on, because either A, they hadn't been presented it, B, they chose not to pay whatever that additional certification fee was to get that data, et cetera. Or it's maybe a really small one-off DMS, which probably isn't the case in this point. So be a great way to talk to your performance manager, or even reach out to me directly. Happy to help show you the different options to make that happen for you.
Oh, that's great. Okay, he wrote back in again. He says, thanks for the info. My DMS is DealerTrack. My CRM is eLead. He wants to look into it and get that done. Thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate that. All right, Tim, good luck for you, my friend. I hope it works out. All right, next question comes to you from Simon. He says, how do you get scripts for when customers call to make a service appointment? Oh, Bill, do you know where a good place is to get?
I would be happy to give those out. So
Yeah.
you can email me or reach out, and I'd be happy to provide those. We certainly use a lot of different scripts in our own in-house automotive-only call center that's here in the U.S., and I am happy to provide those out as a book to anybody, no obligation. I want to support you as much as possible. So there's a lot of different scripts in there that will allow you to use, whatever different motive or culture that you're doing, whether you're looking for that exchange program or you want to do what we call a power play, which is that 6 or 7 day after they've been in the service call. That happens to be our power play script, and I'm just going off the top of my head. But happy to do it. Reach out to me. Glad to pass it on to you. No obligation whatsoever.
Wow, that's awesome. You heard him, Simon. Reach out to him. His email address is right there on the screen. People, I don't know why everyone's not sending out an email to Bill right now asking for that. All right, here we go. Your next question, Bill, comes from Jason. Jason says, you talked about successes on service drive sales, but what are some of the most common failures you've seen? Ooh, that one comes from Jason.
Great question. I'll tell you a couple right off the bat. Number one, no preparation. We try to wing it. Back when I started selling cars, which nobody can even remember that back that far, but they would take all of the new guys like me and they'd throw us in the service lane and they'd give us this great couple of lines that said, hey, go greet everybody that comes in, offer some coffee and a donut, tell them if they can move out of their vehicle into a new one and keep their payment the same, would they be interested? And of course, I was completely unprepared. I learned the script really well, and I could greet him. But the next thing I knew, I got a guy that had just bought a car, 6 months ago. He was 10 grand flipped, and then I had to go back and present to him how to move out of that vehicle and keep his payment the same. It was a terrible experience, not only for me but for him. And I never went back to do it, and everybody else ran away from it too. So that was a long story to tell you. Prepare, be prepared. Use the technology that's available out there, and actually prepare before they get there. Take a look at what vehicles they can move into, anticipate what different objections that could come up, and go and target the ones that are easiest first, right? Don't go out and try to do the hardest ones first. That'll just deter you or your teams away from doing it. So, try to find the easiest ones first. Prepare before they get there. Make sure you have your information in line. And then finally, actually execute. What I really find is people start things for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, they find success, and then they lay back and they enjoy their success, and then they find that they don't have success anymore. So, just keep doing it. It's all about execution and referring to do it. So those 3 items are the biggest failures that I see. The last one I don't see a lot because a lot of people don't actually do it to begin with, but that's actually get a dedicated person in there. It's kind of what I spoke of earlier in the multitasking and the tweet that is sent out before the webinar. You can't expect to do a lot of things well when you're multitasking. You're just going to do a lot of things poorly. So don't think that that's an advantage. It's not. Concentrate on one thing, and the way I tie it into this is make one person accountable, one throat to choke. Grab somebody that this is their sole and only job is to be back there actually executing on this. And maybe it's soup to nuts at start if you're a small dealership. Doesn't matter. It will still succeed if you have one person that's solely on it, where you don't have a bunch of people pointing fingers at each other as to why it didn't get done. So those are probably the 4 things that I've seen out there.
But if you have one person doing it, I feel like that person's going to be making a heck of a lot of money. Like that,
Would
you
that
said
be
it
a
was an
terrible
average
problem to have,
7%, right?
Yeah, and look, cut it in half. But somebody could literally live on this without having to take an internet up, a phone up, or a fresh up, and have a great time and do a very good job. And this particular store that we talked about earlier started with 4 people and originally had 2 when they did it. Now they're up to 8 that are dedicated in the department. You know, it's not something you just build overnight. It's something you grow. And I think even the smallest dealership, just one individual, if they concentrated on this job and really made a commitment that this is all that they're going to do and this is all that they were allowed to do, trust me, they would find success in that, and they would also increase the number of vehicles that they sell. If you had to grow the team because the demand went up, great problem to have.
Wow, yeah, that would be a great problem to have. All right, last question, Bill, comes to you from David. He said, is this software available to work with other CRMs too, or can you only use this software with e-leads? He was talking about the one with the worksheet and it like plugs all the numbers in for you.
That's a fabulous question, and here's what I'll tell you. I think all good companies make their software available that it is standalone. I think ours is included. Is that the best way for us? No, and it's not a pitch to do all of our stuff. It's just what we look at is if you have to ask salespeople, sales managers, service advisors, me included, to log into a lot of different tools, the likelihood is we're not going to log into a lot of different tools. It's really best to have it all in one. And again, that's not a pitch to say, hey, come buy my stuff because it's all in one. It's to tell you that, look, it absolutely works as a standalone. It may not work as optimal as it would when it's interfaced into our service piece and our CRM piece and all the other different items, but it is certainly capable to do. And really what we think the future is, and really what the now is, it's, you know, provide the easiest scope for a dealership and dealership personnel to work out of. It should be, you know, very minimal number of logins, very minimal number of places, very minimal number of pages. Keep it all in one place so that you don't have to keep switching back and forth between different tools. Great question.
No, that makes perfect sense. David, thank you so much for the question. And Bill, thank you for rocking another Dealer On webinar. That was fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank to everybody that tuned in and now and later and when they do the recording as well. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. We'll get you back on the show again soon, mister, in 2016, okay?
You got it.
I want to remind this wonderful audience that a link to download a copy of today's webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours, so go to dealeron.com/webinars. From there, you can view our upcoming webinar schedule or access any of our past webinars. Also, you're going to get a short survey in just a moment when I close out this webinar. We need you to fill that out. We're always looking for your feedback, but today what we're looking for is your feedback about Bill's presentation. I need to know what you thought of today's presentation. So please check it out. It's 6 short, easy questions. Today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And invitations are going to be going out tomorrow for our next webinar, 10 tips to rock your social ad strategy. Now, by now, most dealers have tried social ads, but many have been turned off from them when they didn't get the results that they had hoped for. Luckily, when done properly, social ads are not only cost-effective and efficient, they're also easy to implement. And any mistakes? Well, they're easy to fix. Is your social advertising strategy in need of a boost? Social media mavens Alexi Veneri and Erica Sietsma join forces for a fun and informative 1-hour webinar where they will share 10 tips that are going to rock your social ad strategy. They'll expertly walk dealers through straightforward action items that will guide you to create a comprehensive and highly effective online advertising strategy that successfully targets car shoppers. Alexi and Erica will also cover topics such as how to make the most of Facebook's and Twitter's newest ad types, how dealers can get the greatest ROI from social ad investments, proof of actual dealerships getting real results, and best practices, common mistakes, and practical advice when creating social ads. Are you ready to learn 10 tips to rock your social ad strategy? Whether you're a dealer ready to revive your social ad strategy or you simply want to try social ads for the first time, you just can't afford to miss this webinar, so register now. And don't forget, Dealeron's weekly webinars are held every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, hey, contact me directly. My name is Eliana Raggio. I'd love to hear from you. Track me down online. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. and I'm on all the automotive social networks, or email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today. I hope to see you all on another webinar in Dealeron's continuing education series, and please have yourself a very happy and a very safe Halloween. Take care.